This is precisely the risk that the modern man runs, waking up one day to discover that he has lost half of his life. Carl Jung, in the practice of psychotherapy. Psychopharmaceuticals have emerged as one of the prevailing treatments for anxiety and depression disorders. However, despite their widespread use, these medications often fall short in effectively curing individuals, instead serving as long-term crutches for those grappling with psychological challenges. Fortunately, alternative methods for addressing anxiety and depression exist. In this video, we aim not to replace medical advice, but simply to seek guidance from Jung, a prominent figure in psychiatric history, to explore medication-free approaches to finding relief from these psychological afflictions. The elite still firmly clings to the idea that anxiety disorders originate in alterations within the brain. Unfortunately, many common doctors still swear by this gospel, to the detriment of their patients who swarm to our era. Almost all of these patients have been convinced by medical dogma that their illness is physical in nature. Carl Jung, The Symbolic Life. Jung posited that most cases of anxiety and depression stem not from a faulty brain, but from an impoverished way of living. Therefore, the initial step in Jung's therapeutic approach wasn't to prescribe medication, but rather to provide a psychological outlook, a perspective on what life entails and what transformations are necessary. Regarding the former, Jung emphasized that many individuals expect life to be smooth sailing, minimizing suffering and evading challenges. However, Jung was candid with his patients, asserting that life isn't inherently easy and tranquility isn't our default state. Ultimately, Jung underscored this point in his writings. It is highly unlikely that there will ever be therapy that eliminates all difficulties. Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. What concerns us here is only an excessive amount of them. Carl Jung, The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche. Accepting that difficulties are inevitable and that nothing worthwhile comes easily grounds us in the firm reality from which to initiate change. When we embrace life's challenges, we also recognize that only through building resilience do we stand a chance at living a fulfilling life. Conversely, if we remain ensnared in the illusion that life ought to be easy, we'll lack the motivation to develop a resilient character, mistakenly believing that merely giving it time will make life easier. Life is a battlefield. It always has been and always will be, and if it were not so, existence would come to an end. Carl Jung, Man and His Symbols. Another vital aspect of Jung's psychological insight, crucial for his patients' understanding, is this. One's identity and essence are not solely defined by past experiences or external circumstances. Instead, individuals have the power to shape their own identities and futures through conscious choice and action. I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. Carl Jung, Philosophical Tree. Individual representations of the tree symbol. In essence, Jung suggests that individuals are not bound by the events that have happened to them in the past. While past experiences may influence one's perspective and behavior, they do not determine one's ultimate destiny. Rather, it is the choices and decisions made in the present moment that shape one's identity and trajectory in life. By asserting, "I am not what happened to me," Jung emphasizes the distinction between past events and present identity. He underscores the notion that individuals have the capacity to transcend past hardships or traumas and forge a new path forward. The phrase, "I am what I choose to become," reflects Jung's belief in the power of personal agency and self-creation. It highlights the importance of intentional decision-making and the conscious pursuit of personal growth and fulfillment. Ultimately, Jung encourages individuals to take ownership of their lives and to actively strive towards becoming the best versions of themselves. With these doses of psychological vision, Jung resorted to the first practical step in his treatment method, and this was to help his patients face what he called the shadow, because as he writes, "The first requirement of any complete psychological method is that consciousness confront its shadow." Carl Jung, Mysterium Conjunctionis. The shadow refers to those aspects of our character that we suppress and relegate to the unconscious because of shame, insecurity, or censorship. Essentially, it represents the facets of our personality that we strive to conceal, both from others and ourselves. There can be no doubt that man in general is less good than he imagines or desires to be. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the darker and denser it is. Carl Jung, Psychology and Religion. Jung emphasized the importance of confronting the shadow in the journey of self-transformation for various reasons. Initially, denying the darker aspects of our personality doesn't serve our best interests. It merely results in losing control over when and how these traits manifest. Conversely, acknowledging a flaw in our character enables us to regulate its outward expression, thereby reducing its detrimental impact on our lives. Anything conscious can be corrected, but anything that slips into the unconscious is beyond the reach of correction, and with its disorderly growth is subject to increased degeneration. Fortunately, nature ensures that unconscious contents burst into consciousness sooner or later and create the necessary confusion. Carl Jung, Mysterium Conjunctionis. However, the shadow isn't solely comprised of weaknesses. Rather, some of its elements are strengths that we suppress in our youth because our companions, family members, or society in general imparted the false belief that these traits were undesirable. For instance, some individuals suppress their capacity to express anger or their ability to stand up for themselves. Another advantage of confronting the shadow, therefore, is that it grants us access to character traits that foster vitality, as Jung articulates. The shadow is simply something inferior, primitive, unadapted, and clumsy. Not entirely bad, it even contains qualities that somehow vitalize and beautify human existence. But the convention does not prohibit. Carl Jung, Psychology and Religion. One method to bring the shadow into consciousness is by observing the weaknesses, flaws, and insecurities evident in those around us. This is because not only do most of us suppress similar character traits, but we also have a tendency to project elements of our shadow onto others. Therefore, if we pay attention to the character traits of our friends and family that irritate us, we can also examine our own shadow. Another approach to illuminate the shadow is by reflecting on the motives behind our actions, particularly those that evoke feelings of shame, and by remaining receptive to self-critique when necessary. As Jung observes, often, the only thing that prevents us from seeing our shadow is the ability to be honest with ourselves with a little self-criticism. One can see through the shadow. Carl Jung, Ion. Together with becoming more aware of the shadow, another integral aspect of Jung's treatment method was to help his patients find meaning in their lives, because Jung believed that when one is trapped in deep depression or consumed by an anxiety disorder, being cured requires discovering a role as one of the actors in the divine drama of life. Carl Jung, The Symbolic Life. To understand what he meant by this, we can turn to an encounter that Jung had with a chief of the tribe. In the first half of the 20th century, Jung was discussing with this man the traditions of his tribe, when the chief made the following comment. "Yes, we are a small tribe, and these Americans want to interfere with our religion. They should not do it, because we are the children of the Father, the Son who goes there pointing to the sun. That is our Father. We must help him to rise above the horizon and walk on the sky, and we do it not only for ourselves, we do it for America, we do it for the whole world." Carl Jung, The Symbolic Life. Jung recognized that for many individuals in the contemporary age, this assertion might seem unconventional and outdated. However, as he highlights, the members of this tribe did not experience the same suffering as we do. They were not plagued by anxiety or depression, nor were they reliant on daily medication or debilitated by addictions. Instead, this tribe consisted of highly functional individuals who viewed themselves as fulfilling their roles as participants in life's divine narrative. Their lives were imbued with significance and purpose, as Jung eloquently expressed. These people do not have problems. They have their daily life, their symbolic life. They get up in the morning with a feeling of their great and divine responsibility. They are the sons of the Son, the Father, and their daily duty is to help the Father to rise above the horizon, not only for themselves but for the whole world. You should see these guys have a natural dignity fulfilled. Carl Jung, the symbolic life. Jung contrasts this way of life with a Western woman he met. This lady, as Jung notes, was a compulsive traveler, always running from one place to another, always searching but never really finding what she was looking for. I was surprised when I looked into her eyes, the eyes of a married animal, cornered, searching, always searching with the hope of something is possessed. And why is she possessed? Because she does not live a life. That makes sense. Hers is a completely grotesquely banal life without any meaning at all. If she dies today, nothing has happened. Nothing has disappeared because she was nothing. Carl Jung, the symbolic life. This compulsive quest infects many in the Western world. Some flit from one destiny to another. Some pursue romantic partners, while others are driven by an insatiable thirst for wealth, status, fame, or validation on social platforms. Yet, regardless of the external manifestation, the underlying drive remains the same. The seeker endeavors to evade the banality of their existence, seeking to fill the void of emptiness that accompanies a life devoid of purpose. However, as Jung elucidates, this void cannot be assuaged by material possessions or fleeting experiences. What truly satiates this emptiness is the awareness that we are living in a manner that brings about a meaningful impact, as he narrates about the woman he encountered. But if she could say, "I am the daughter of the moon every night, I must help the moon, my mother, to rise above the horizon." Ah, that is something different. Then she lives. Then her life has meaning, and it makes sense in all continuity. And for everything humanity that gives peace when people feel they are living as actors in the divine drama that gives the only meaning to human life. Everything else is banal and can be discarded. A career producing children. Everything is Maya compared to that one thing, which is that your life be meaningful. Carl Jung, the symbolic life. Jung didn't advocate for universal adoption of this approach. For those seeking liberation from anxiety or depression, the challenge lies in uncovering this sense of purpose. In essence, we must find a rationale for our existence, akin to how people find meaning in their lives. Some may discover this through religion, others by actively promoting values like justice, freedom, or community, while some may find it through creative expression. However, for those of us in the modern Western world, where a dominant mythology is lacking, the onus falls solely on us to discern how we can contribute meaningfully to life's grand narrative. For the fortunate few who accomplish this feat, a fulfilling life will shape their destiny. Conversely, for the many who fail to do so, years or even decades of futile suffering and relentless pursuit will be their fate. Jung highlights that as individuals develop a broader interest or purpose in life, their focus shifts away from the immediate problems. This widening of perspective diminishes the perceived urgency of the issues as they become less central to the individual's overall life experience. This process of outgrowing involves a shift to a higher level of consciousness. As individuals expand their awareness and perspective, they gain insight into the broader context of their problems. This newfound understanding allows them to see their challenges from a different vantage point, where solutions may not be apparent through conventional logic. Ultimately, Jung suggests that the resolution of life's greatest problems is not achieved through direct logical solutions, but rather through a deeper transformation of consciousness. By transcending the limitations of the current perspective, individuals can navigate these challenges with greater ease and clarity, paving the way for personal growth and development. The greatest and most important problems of life are all, in a certain sense, insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. This outgrowing, as I formerly called it, on further experience, was seen to consist in a new level of consciousness. Some higher or wider interest arose on the person's horizon, and through this widening of view, the insoluble problem lost its urgency. It was not solved logically in its own terms, but faded out when confronted with a new and stronger life tendency,